Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn in Naruto World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge, and What If a Venerated Soul Reincarnated in Danmachi World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if hosting Q&A in One Piece World? Please vote in the poll and let me know which two stories you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 80. Yandere, Hokage. Naruto uttered blankly, looking down, as if he couldn't believe what he just heard. Sasuke didn't blame him at all. After all, the Yandere was the one to seal the QB inside him. Specific circumstances or not. For your own father to do that. The Yandere is my dad, he muttered. Why? He trailed off, before his head whipped up, eyes narrowed into a glare of fury, tears streaming from his eyes. Why? He shouted. I get what you told me before, Daiki, I do. I understand better now, there's nothing wrong with being a Jinchuriki. But why? Why would my own dad seal it in me? Especially if my mom was the last one. Who would a father trust more than his own son? Daiki countered calmly, and Naruto froze, the tears stopping. Daiki made his way back over to his desk and sat on it again, arms crossed as he stared at Naruto, ignoring Sasuke for the moment. This wasn't about him, and he honestly felt like a little bit of an outsider. Even though he definitely wasn't. He was all too involved. It made him uncomfortable. Naruto took a shuddering breath. Then, how did the QB get out of my mom? The seal of a Jinchuriki is at the weakest in women, when they're giving birth. Daiki told him, as he told Sasuke yesterday. An enemy slipped into the village the night of your birth. A man calling himself Madara Uchiha. Like the one you told me about before? That controlled the QB to fight the first Hokage. Naruto gasped. The very same. Whether he's a fake or the real deal, we don't know yet. Daiki told him. He ripped the QB from your mother when the seal was at the weakest, and let loose the QB on the village after controlling it with his Sharingan. After a real big fight, the Yandere managed to defeat him, forcing him to retreat, and then with their last breaths, your mother and father sealed the QB into you. So that's why. Naruto bit his lip. But that still doesn't explain why me. Or why my mother even. Because only you could hold back the QB. I told you before you should be proud, not just of being a Jinchuriki, but containing the QB, did I not? Daiki told him. The QB is so much stronger than the other Bijou, it's not even funny. Only the Uzumaki clan, known for their absurdly strong bodies and stamina, could hope to contain it. Without you, Naruto, there was nobody in the village that could have contained the QB, and we would have all died. Only you could hold the QB back at that time. At that time? Sasuke blinked. Did that mean there was another Uzumaki? Or did Daiki mean himself now? Oh. Naruto blinked, and slowing looked over to the side of the room where the pictures of the past Hokage hung. His eyes specifically landing on a handsome blonde at the end. I gotta say though, the Yandere is such a badass. Daiki mused, and flicked his hand, a picture frame appearing in his grasp. I mean, check this out. Your mom is such a foxy babe, Naruto. I admire the Yandere so much for marrying a babe like Kushina Uzumaki. He held the frame up, showing off a beautiful woman with long flowing red hair, deep gray eyes and a cocky smile on her lips. Sasuke could see the resemblance immediately. Not just the cocky smile, but the shape of the face and the eyes. Naruto got his coloring from his father, but his looks were all his mother. Naruto turned and looked at the picture, and held it almost reverently when Daiki handed it to him. My mom, huh? He whispered, staring at the picture of her for a long moment, before frowning and looking up at Daiki. Wait, what the hell did you just say about my mother? That she's a total fox. Daiki gave him a cocky smirk matching the smile of Naruto's mother in the picture. I mean, just look at that face and body. Not to mention that hair. I've never seen a woman with such beautiful hair. It's no wonder your sexy jutsu is such a babe when you're basically just like a twin-tailed blonde, blue-eyed version of your mother. The somberness of the situation was completely dispelled. Daiki, stop talking about my dead mother like a pervert. I'll kick your freaking ass, I swear. Naruto clenched his fist and waved it in the air threateningly. You can perv on my sexy jutsu form all you like, but leave my mother out of it or you're gonna get a broken nose. Oh, sorry, Naruto. Daiki's cocky smirk just widened. I didn't mean to make you jealous by paying attention to another woman's looks. I'm going to kill you, Daiki. Naruto shouted in return. Daiki ignored him and turned to Sasuke. And it was then, a horrible pit formed in his stomach. Hey, so if Naruto is a babe in comparison to Kushina, would Sasuke be a babe to match your mother Mikoto? Did I ever tell you I love her name, by the way? Onyx's eyes burned straight into the Manjikyu. You've gone too far this time, Daiki! Sasuke shot at him, followed by Naruto. Daiki caught Naruto's kick with his knee, and Sasuke's punch with his forearm without ever getting up, not even having to move to react to, and block their attacks despite how strong they'd both gotten over the last month. Oh, I didn't think you'd be jealous of me paying attention to another woman as well, Daiki mocked. Is that why you never pay attention to girls? Sorry, Sasuke, I'll have to see you as Sasuke first before I commit. Daiki! Daiki! Naruto and Sasuke's furious shouts echoed through the Hokage office and beyond. Sasuke would like to say that it was an epic clash for the ages. That, despite Daiki's absurd growth and strength, that he and Naruto held their own. That they pushed him to the limit, and got their revenge. It would be a complete lie, however. Let me go, you pervert! Naruto thrashed, dangling in the air, held aloft by a massive gray-shelled shrimp-like tail. It was a testament to his absurd vitality and chakra capacity he was still at it. Hanging midair beside him, wrapped up in a similar tail, Sasuke was absolutely exhausted. Not only was the tail absurdly strong and durable, it was absorbing any chakra he tried to exert. What even is this? Naruto shouted. Is this the Sanbai's tails? I didn't know we could do this. I can only make that red chakra cloak tail thingy. That's 'cause you're still a scrub Jinchuriki. Daiki mocked, from where he sat still on his desk, arms crossed, casual as could be despite subduing them. This is partial Bijou mode. It's a step up from the version 1 cloak you can use, and a step above the version 2 cloak you would have seen that Fukai guy using on the broadcast. This is something only a perfect Jinchuriki like myself can do. Wait. Sasuke panted. Are you stronger like this than in that red 3-tailed cloak you used against Orochimaru? So. Daiki waved, the third tail as if it were an arm. And it showed just how absurd the control and dexterity of the tails were, like a true extension of his body. Physically? Yes, this is the strongest form I can take without fully transforming into the Sanbai. But the chakra cloak has its own benefits. Like, I can fire off chakra claws, and as it's already formed chakra, I can form it into jutsu easier. Plus it works as an armor as well. Frankly, my preferred version is either this or the version 1 cloak. My version 2 cloak gives me a shell on my back of chakra like a mini Sanbai. The durability of it is off the charts, but it's kinda awkward to move with. So there was a lot to take into consideration then. Pure power or physical ability wasn't the only thing to take into account as a Jinchuriki. Good to know. But beyond that, even not taking into him using this power, that brief clash at first. He's even stronger than he was yesterday, Sasuke thought. Somehow. He had no idea how that was possible. Damn it! You're so far ahead! Naruto continued to struggle. How do I do this? Well, this specifically? Daiki laughed. You either need to get the Kyuubi to work with you and let you, or you're gonna need to beat him in a fight. Have fun with that. Ah man, Fuzzbutt is never gonna work with me. Naruto slumped in defeat. I wanna grow Huge Tail's awesomeness too. Well, there's always the version 2 cloak, and the Kyuubi's version is by far the best. Daiki said in reply. You'll need a lot more training to handle that though. The more of his chakra you use, the more he'll be able to influence it. And the Kyuubi's chakra will burn your skin off like a motherfucker if you go into that form without being properly ready for it, and able to withstand the hate he fuels his chakra with right now. Can we switch Bijou? Naruto whined. The Sanbai isn't as strong, you said, but he sounds way nicer than the Kyuubi. Do-over. I want a do-over. Hell no. Daiki immediately denied him. Even if the Kyuubi was full on willing to work with me, I still wouldn't do it. Turtles are cooler than foxes. Naruto scrunched his nose up. That's wrong though, he said. I don't like Fuzzbutt, but foxes are way cooler than turtles. They're super agile and smart and cunning. Turtles are dumb and slow and hhh. Naruto never got to finish as Daiki pettily slammed him face first into the floor. Foxes are barely a step up from a rodent and cowardly. Turtles can go underwater, are super chill and live way longer. Damn you, Daiki! Let me go, that hurt. Fight me fair and square. Naruto rolled and thrashed on the floor. You're both idiots. Sasuke sighed. Just, let's get a move on. I've had enough of you two morons for a day, just let's get to the point. You wouldn't call me here as well if it was just about Naruto's parents. He respected that Daiki obviously did all that, to deflect the sorrow Naruto must have been going through, but it was still freaking annoying. Besides, he didn't have a Bijou. So it wasn't fair. Fine. Daiki relinquished his hold on them, his tails dissipating into thin air as if they were never there to begin with, and Sasuke fell to his feet on the floor. While Naruto pushed himself up, grumbling. You're not exactly wrong, and you're not exactly right either. This is about Naruto's parents, and yours, Sasuke. And both of your clans as a whole. Naruto blinked. Oh right, you said I had a clan, what's that about? He asked, before grinning excitedly. I have a clan. That's so cool. Where are they? Daiki gave Sasuke an annoyed look. Oh right, I said I'd tell him about his clan. He remembered. But well, he hadn't had the chance. Kakashi had dragged him off to the mountains for training as soon as the second round had ended. Mostly dead and gone, just like Sasuke's and the Senju. Daiki bluntly told the blonde, making Naruto shrink. Oh. Naruto grimaced. Well, that sucks. Guess it explains why I never met them though. Mostly? Sasuke cocked his head to the side. Why do you want to talk about so many dead people though? Naruto huffed in annoyance. Like, seriously, thanks for telling me about my parents, Daiki, but this is so, like, morbid. 'Cause these dead people are important. Daiki rolled his eyes. Naruto, what do you know about the Sage of Six Paths? The fairy tale dude? Naruto asked, confused. Made the moon or something? I heard it a few times as a kid, but what does our clans have to do with a storybook guy? Well, for one, he's not a fairy tale, the sage was real, Daiki told him. And he's the reason the Kyuubi and the other Bijou even exist. Once upon a time, all the Bijou used to one bigger, stronger, scarier Bijou, called the Jubi. Huh. Naruto blinked and grasped his stomach. Even stronger than Fuzzbutt at full strength? Way stronger and way bigger. Daiki nodded. As in, the Kyuubi at full power is about 3 times bigger than the he is currently inside your seal. The Jubi is over 10 times bigger than the Kyuubi. More than 10 times stronger too. But... Naruto went wide-eyed and spluttered. Even the Yondaime, my dad couldn't beat the Kyuubi. How could something 10 times stronger exist? It doesn't exist, not anymore. Daiki shrugged. That's the point. The sage defeated it, and sealed it inside himself, becoming the first Jinchuriki. And when he was going to die, he split the Jubi into 9, forming the 9 Bijou. Who he considered his own children, by the way. Aha! Naruto clapped a fist into a palm, a eureka expression on his face, as if he'd come to the same conclusion, before crossing his arms and nodding sagely. I see, it all makes sense now. You don't even know why this is important, do you? Sasuke rolled his eyes. SSSH. Shut up, Sasuke. I totally know you don't though. 'Cause you're dumb, a mega idiot moron. Naruto stuck his tongue out at him. Chidori sounded like good stress relief right about now. Sure you do, Naruto. Daiki snorted. Anyway, putting the bijou aside for the moment. And why I was bringing up your clans. The sage had 2 actual blood sons. Ashura and Indra. Indra was born with the sage's eyes, and would go on to be progenitor of the Uchiha clan. While Ashura was born with the sage's body, and would go on to become the progenitor of the Senju and Uzumaki clans. So that's it. Sasuke's eyes widened at the information revealed to him. So that was the start of his clan. Of their clans. And how they were descended from the… what's a progenitor? Naruto asked blankly. It means first. Sasuke sighed, looking at his teammate. It means I'm descended from this Indra guy, and you're descended from his brother Ashura. Oh. Naruto's eyes lit up. Neat. So we're like super duper distantly related, right? I suppose. Sasuke shrugged. Actually, you're far more closely related than you two know. Daiki said. Sasuke raised a brow. Was he talking about the god-brother stuff? Right, so the sage super powerful, godlike really. The closest thing there was to a god. Daiki instead chose to say. His successor though, he had to choose between his 2 sons. Now the sage, he was a real peace-loving guy. He didn't like fighting. Swell guy all around, very kind. It's only thanks to him we're actually alive and kicking right now. He uncrossed his arms and planted them on the desk and leaned back with a sigh. Now his kid's very different from him, Daiki said and looked specifically at Sasuke for some reason. Indra, the older brother. A super mega ultra prodigy if there ever was one. Absurdly talented and absurdly strong. He didn't need help for anything. He could do everything alone and needed nobody. He was so talented he made your brother Itachi look like a dunce. Okay? Well, the picture was nice at least. But what did that have to do with anything? He was also a massive cunt, Daiki said bluntly, and Sasuke's jaw dropped. Elitist, arrogant, merciless, selfish, and a whole lot more, which will be important for later. He then turned to Naruto. Then there was Ashura, the younger brother. A total dunce, a bit like you really, he said, ignoring Naruto's protest of hey. His heart was in the right place though, and despite his lack of talent. He was charismatic, kind, and hard-working. He never let his lack of talent hold him back, and he made tons and tons of friends who all elected to follow him, a lot like a Hokage really. And after working hard for long years, he reached the point where he caught up to his older brother in strength and power. He then looked between them both. So when the time came for the sage to decide on his successor, he chose Ashura, the best choice that I completely agree with. Man, fuck Indra, he's such a useless little bitch. Wow. That was very vitriolic. Should I be offended? Sasuke wondered, taking in the way Daiki insulted the man his clan originated from. He felt like he should be offended. But well, the guy was sounding a lot more like Madara, or fake Madara, or whoever that dead man walking was. I'll just let it go. Sasuke decided. So Indra, useless baby that he was, threw a tantrum. Daiki rolled his eyes. Why you no pick me daddy? Look at me, I so strong. Wah! Wah! He turned his voice high-pitched and imitated a toddler crying, before snorting. Basically a whole lot of that. Then he baby raged and attacked the sage and Ashura and tried to kill them like a pumsing whiny woman. Sasuke wasn't even sure how to respond to that. His mouth opened and closed uselessly. Like, what was he even supposed to say? Other than, yes. That's where Madara got it from, I suppose. Wow, you really don't like this guy. Naruto just burst out laughing. This guy's been dead for how long, and he pisses you off this much? 'Cause he isn't fully dead. Daiki shut Naruto's laughing up right quick, and Sasuke's eyes widened in disbelief. See, Indra continued to attack and feud with Ashura for the rest of their lives, and eventually in their last battle they killed each other. But that wasn't enough for him, or Ashura in the end. Even death isn't much for guys like them. And their souls have traveled down their descendants, clinging to specific descendants through the ages and continuing that stupid sibling rivalry for a fucking 1,000 years. Naruto looked confused, but a horror filled Sasuke to the core. Daiki hopped up and placed his hands on both of their shoulders. Congratulations, your ancestors' souls are clinging to you both now in this age, he said with a big wide smile. Before you two, it was Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju. You two are spiritually, technically in a way, reincarnated brothers. Eh? Naruto gaped at him. Are you serious right now? Sasuke asked, and he felt sick. Some perverted ancestor of his was inside his soul. And he'd gone and killed his own brother over just not being his father's successor. And been so angry over it, he'd continued for 1,000 years through spirit reincarnation bullshit or something? Yes, you think I'd say this shit for kicks? Or make it up? Like, I love taking the piss and having a joke, but not about shit as serious as this. Daiki said seriously. Since I'm the Hokage now though, and their nonsensical fate crap will try to influence you too, I'm drawing the line in the sand. It's a lot to dump on you two right now, but this 1,000-year sibling rivalry ends right now. Because this is my village now. And I will literally reach into both of your souls, and fuck both Ashura and Indra up and fucking eat their souls if I have to. Huh? Wait? What? Oh great. What the hell was wrong with his family? Not just Itachi, or this fucking Madara guy, or whoever was pretending to be him, or whatever. Now his whiny pervert of an ancestor caused his best friend to threaten to eat his soul. What? You can eat souls, Naruto sputtered. Daiki, that's super freaky. And I don't even get what you're saying. But there's a dude inside my soul like the Kyuubi. Can you get him out? Ew, that's nasty. It was a figure of expression. No, I can't eat souls. I can interact with them though, or will be able to. Honestly, it doesn't matter. Daiki huffed and let go of their shoulders. I just know from looking into things that every time Ashura and Indra clung to specific descendants, their rivalry continued. And the ones they do cling to have much more potential than other members of their clans. Oh, that's better. Sasuke released a sigh of relief he didn't know he was holding. He resisted the urge to shudder as well at the thought of some freaky 1,000-year-old loser clinging to his soul. He had zero interest in some sibling rivalry. He had enough sibling drama as it was, thank you very much. Anyway, Daiki sat on his desk again. It's not all bad though. Now you know those two exist, you'll know about their silly little fate machinations trying to pit you two against each other. And if you both end up trying to get some grudge match Hashirama and Madara style, I will personally beat your asses until you forget your own names. Well, Sasuke supposed it did help a bit. It was ever so annoying and creepy though. What even was his life at this point? He couldn't even find it in himself to be mad about Daiki threatening to kick his ass. And that brings us to the real meat of why I called you both here. Daiki then nodded. Wait, there's more? Naruto gaped. How long are we gonna be here, man? Oh, shut up, this is for your own benefit anyway. Daiki clicked his tongue. You think I wanna waste my time talking to you when I could be training or hanging out with a girl? You wouldn't be saying that if I transformed into Naruto, now would you? Naruto got heated and fired right back. Sasuke palmed his face. How many times had he done that since he arrived at this office? And Daiki had even got Naruto calling his other form Naruko and not his sexy jutsu now. No, I wouldn't actually. Daiki shrugged. Feel free to do so. Damn it. Naruto slumped in defeat. He should know better. Sasuke rolled his eyes. Stop with the nonsense already. If you want to try and con Naruto into becoming a chick and flirting with her, do that on your own time, not mine. Yeah. Daiki waved him off. There's only 2 more points to cover anyway. But I'll be quick. You already know this, Sasuke, but Naruto. There's a group called Akatsuki. That guy who ripped the Kyuubi out of your mother and used it to attack the village is part of it. They want to get all 9 of the Bijou and reform them back into the Jubi. Well, that was definitely far more abridged than he thought it would be. Definitely quicker than how he explained it to him. Sasuke was very thankful for that. Naruto's jaw dropped. Didn't you just say that it's 10 times the size of the Kyuubi and 10 times as strong? He asked in disbelief. And these losers think they control that thing? When the Yondaime failed to beat the Kyuubi? They're insane. They very much are, and dead men walking too because they'll need my bijou. And that's just not happening. Daiki shrugged. Anyway, this is the final part. And really about you too. Daiki pointed at Sasuke. The Sharingan has many evolutions. It goes, the Sharingan, the Manjikyu Sharingan, the Eternal Manjikyu Sharingan. He revealed, and Sasuke's eyes once more widened. There was a level above the Manjikyu. And finally, the Rinnegan. The Jujutsu of the Sage of 6 Paths, the eyes of a god. I have no idea what is, sounds cool though. Naruto cocked his head to the side and said, while Sasuke was rendered mute in disbelief. However, only the sage's chakra can make the Sharingan evolve fully into the Rinnegan. Daiki continued, his finger pointing at Sasuke, shifting to Naruto. Indra inherited the eyes and half of the sage's chakra. Ashura inherited the body and the other half of the sage's chakra. Yin and Yang. How would you two like to one day obtain the Rinnegan? Chapter 81. The Rinnegan. He thought it was just a myth. The fabled Jujutsu of the Sage of 6 Paths. I spoken about in a child's fairy tale book. But no, as it turned out, the Rinnegan was very real. And the true final form of the Sharingan, apparently. And he'd just been offered the possibility of awakening it. Sasuke honestly wasn't sure what to think. He had no idea how Daiki learned of such a thing, his bijou, he thought distractedly as he made his way through the winding halls of the Hokage Tower on his way out. He had no idea there was an eternal Manjikyu Sharingan either above the Manjikyu. Daiki did though. And had it apparently. Which most likely means Daiki has a way of obtaining the Rinnegan himself as well without Indra or Ashura. He thought. He still wasn't sure what to feel about that. In fact, he'd rather not deal with it at all. He had no interest in this Indra guy. In fact, him being part of him disgusted Sasuke. Even if he was the key to obtaining the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan and beyond it. Can you believe that? Naruto huffed at his side, face scrunched up as he walked beside him, arms crossed behind his head. No, it's kind of crazy. Sasuke shook his head. We have to switch and get each other's eyes. Well, it was more complicated than that. But at the end of the day, they'd both be getting their eyes removed. He shuddered at the thought. But apparently, the way to evolve the Manjikyu Sharingan into the eternal Manjikyu was through taking the eyes of a close relative. And in the case of the Rinnegan, because their eyes would contain Tenketsu, they would also contain parts of Indra and Ashura's chakra as well. And the merging of their chakra would in time allow for their eyes to naturally evolve to the Rinnegan. What? Naruto gave him an odd look, before shaking his head. No, not that. I'm talking about Daiki. He shooed us out of his office like a pair of brats. Sasuke gave him a dry look. That's what you're focused on. After everything Daiki revealed to us? He asked in disbelief. Yeah, well, I'm gonna be honest. Naruto shrugged. Most of all that crap he said flew right over my head. I was only pretending to understand. All that Ashura and Indra, fate and Jujutsu and all that other crap? Way too complicated. Besides, I was more focused on, well, finding out who my parents are and all that. Oh right. Sasuke grimaced. He'd almost completely forgot about that. Of course, that would be way more important to Naruto than mystical reincarnation fate nonsense. Hell, he himself was only interested in it because of the fact they'd apparently try and influence them or something, and because of the chance to upgrade his Jujutsu even further. Also, he's a moron. Naruto smirked cockily at Sasuke. Can you believe he actually thought if you used the sexy jutsu you could compare to me as Naruto? Sasuke stilled. Usually, he would not at all be bothered by such a thing. He would not be dragged into that idiocy. But he had in fact tried the jutsu out. If only to prove to himself he could do it better. And the female version of him did in fact look a lot like his mother. And Naruto, beyond the hair color, hairstyle and eye color, looked incredibly like Kushina Uzumaki. Which meant Naruto just inadvertently claimed his mother was prettier than Sasuke's mother. Yes, I can't, Sasuke agreed. After all, there's no way Naruto compares to Sasuke. Huh? Naruto cocked his head to the side and scowled at him, stepping into his personal space. Yeah right, bastard. You wish the pasty wax figure you'd be as a chick could compare to Naruto. His eyebrow twitched. Those are fighting words, Sasuke hissed, turning and facing him head-on. I don't want to hear about standards of beauty from a moron like you who has absolute trash taste in girls. Sparks practically flew between them. No matter the time, no matter situation, no matter the form. This was a rivalry that transcended lifetimes. That was quite the gamble, Daiki spun around lazily in his chair after he shooed Naruto and Sasuke out. It was almost time for him to go get officially sworn in as the Godame Hokage. You think so? Daiki replied to Aisabu's comment with a hum. I actually think it isn't much of one at all. There's still no guarantee he won't flip out when the truth of the Uchiha massacre comes out, no matter how you've skewed it, Aisabu warned. He is much different from the Sasuke of the other timeline, but the embers that made that Sasuke still exist within this one. And giving him the Rinnegan could truly backfire. Perhaps, but perhaps not. The truth will come out long before he obtains the Rinnegan, Daiki shrugged. I'm specifically putting them through the same path Madara went through for it, not the way I'm getting mine. It'll be quicker than Madara because they'll flat out have a few of each other's tenketsu, but it should still take a few years. And it very specifically wouldn't give either of them access to Six Paths chakra. The only one of them that may obtain that was Naruto, but only if he mastered Senjutsu this time around as well and gained Kurama's cooperation. Sasuke would have no chance to learn Senjutsu. He did not have the snake contract in this timeline. In fact, the snake summoning contract was currently in Daiki's possession. And even if he obtained a bijou, without truly mastering Senjutsu, he wouldn't be able to gain Six Paths chakra without the sage himself giving him it. But what if he does? Aisabu pressed, are you prepared to do what's necessary if it comes to that? He'd specifically brought up Ashura and Indra. To hammer in that nonsense like that would not be acceptable, and to make Sasuke think that thoughts like that would see him ever turn against the village because of his clan would be the influence of Indra. Was it? For the most part, no. Did he care? No, because fuck Indra. It won't come to that, Daiki assured him as he stepped up out of his chair, walking over to the window of his office and clasping his hands behind his back. He peered down at the village below, where he could see huge swathes of excited people making their way towards the main square outside of the building. But if it does, you already know I'll kill him. He was not Naruto. And despite the fact he cared a great deal for Sasuke, and thought him perhaps his closest friend, his relationship with Aisabu was far beyond friends. He would still kill him if he ever betrayed him like that and tried to take his life, as he had Naruto in the other timeline. He could change his mind entirely in the end with Kodo Amatsukami. But he didn't want to change his friend's personality. So even if he betrayed him in the end, he'd give him the respect and the care of killing him and not using that technique upon him. Just making sure, Isabu said and let it drop. He stared down at the people below for a few more seconds, before clicking his tongue and turning away. He made his way over towards the door, grasping the handle, and the world suddenly shifted, the office around him seamlessly bleeding away into a dark void, while the floor below him rippled into softly flowing liquid like chakra. And he found himself staring into purple rippled eyes, atop a wrinkled face of matte gray skin. Apologies for thy summons, Hagoromo Otsutsuki spoke as he floated in the air in front of him. But thine statements and viewpoint could not be left uncontested. A festering of indisputable, arrogant strength. The Sage of Six Paths looked him dead in the eye. I am he of governs peace and order, and I have come to ascertain your influence over the herald that will come. Daiki forced himself to calm Isabu. He mentally called. Nothing. Thine are endeavoring to call for my child? He shan't answer. Hagoromo shook his head. Isabu cannot perceive your calls. This dialogue shall be between thou and I. That struck him, straight to his core. He blocked their connection. Horror pooled in his stomach, and a tingle of spiking fear that pierced the length of his spine. But his hands clenched into fists. Who do you think you are? He bared his teeth in a snarl, his chakra flaring to life around him with enough force to cause gale force winds. Hagoromo, however, was supremely unaffected. Thou already knoweth, the sage replied simply. However, it is rude not to introduce oneself. I am Hagoromo Otsutsuki, but thou already knoweth that as I summarized. He held up a hand. Peace, I did not come to do battle or cast judgment. You've got a funny way of showing it. Daiki reined in his chakra with a shuddering breath, but did not unclench his fists. Do me a favor and lose the ye old speech pattern crap. If you're going to force me here to talk to you, at least make it so I don't have to jump through hoops just to understand you. He might have sounded defiant, and in control on the outside. But on the inside, his mind was racing. He hadn't expected this at all. Why the hell had the old man sage appeared before him? Hagoromo stared at him silently for a moment. Communication of wills cannot be achieved thusly. Yet, there is ambiguity in scholarship, one supposes, he said before closing his eyes. Definition of dialogue changes with the ages. Taking into account the dialogue of the current age, of idealistic thinking and in materialistic ways, one must thusly speak more simply. He trailed off, before opening his eyes suddenly a few seconds there. This will do, I suppose. He smiled. Hello, Daiki Yurii. Allow me to introduce myself properly then. Once more, I am Hagoromo Otsutsuki. But again, you already know that now, don't you? So that was Nishuha? If one didn't know about it, they would have completely missed it or misunderstood. But in just a few seconds he had comprehended the language and speaking style of the modern age, and how best to speak to Daiki himself. No wonder it was created and used to form bridges between people to allow them to understand one another. But already he could see the big problem with it. It was not its destructive capacity or anything like that. That came later with ninjutsu developed by that trash heap Indra. No, the true threat of Nishu in the hands of someone malicious was far more insidious than simple power. Because a power that let you perfectly understand and connect with another person, to form bonds with them and pursue kindness and peace, also had an opposite form. Where there was light, there would always be darkness. And a power such as Nishu was the perfect tool to manipulate, toy with, and completely destroys others on a fundamental spiritual level. You are correct. Hagoromo nodded, reading his very thoughts like words on a screen. An oversight that I, in my naivety of youth, could not comprehend. Yet you understood instantly. Truly, you are formidably dangerous. You instinctively comprehend how to benefit and use any power you come into contact with, for your own benefit and against others. He shook his head. I was horrified when I understood what the true ramifications of Nishu were, yet such a thing is an instinctual instant thought for you. You are an anomaly that has changed the paths of this world. A fascinating boy, but what is your role? That is what I have come to ascertain. Personally, Daiki didn't think understanding both sides of an ability was anything special. Everything had a cause and effect. And everything was different depending on context. Killing a pregnant woman was evil. But what if said pregnant woman was a mass murderer who had experimented on herself so she'd give birth to a demonic monster that needed to feed on humans to live? A fire-style ninjutsu was used for combat. But it could also be used to provide a campfire for warmth, or to cook food upon. There was no such thing as something purely good or purely evil. Such things could be considered perfect existences. And perfection was a lie. What do you mean, my role? Daiki crossed his arms. I don't have a role. And as far as any plans I have, can't you just pluck them from my head like you did a second ago? Hagoromo shook his head. Incorrect. I could discern your thoughts over Nishu, because I am its creator and linked to it. And could hear your call for my child Isabu, because I am interfering in your connection. Still not happy with that, by the way. Daiki helpfully informed him, glaring. Apologies, but I wish to speak to you alone. Hagoromo replied. I wish to take measure of your character personally, not just watch from a distance. The paths have changed. The prophecy of the uniting of the tailed beasts, and the blue-eyed youth who would frolic with them, has become cloudy. Do you mean that crap prophecy about one of Jiraiya's students either being a great savior or great destroyer? That they'd either go on to save the world or destroy it? Daiki scoffed. So you even know of that? Hagoromo mused, giving him an appraising look. However, no. That prophecy does not pertain to the blue-eyed youth. Only the uniting of the tailed beasts, but that is no longer set in stone. Because of you. Well, obviously it would be. Of course it's fucked. Daiki smirked, baring his teeth almost mockingly. I am Isabu's Jinchuriki. Naruto can get bent as far as I'm concerned when it comes to that. That prophecy will never come true as long as I live. He will never get any of Isabu's chakra, or become the meeting point Isabu ends up in. He can get all the other bijou, I don't give a crap, but Isabu is off the table. Possessive and crass. Hagoromo chuckled. It is odd, I cannot be sure of your path at all. Destroyer or savior? Demon or god? Will you lead this world into one of peace and prosperity? Or will you bring about a world of eternal darkness? I see all these as possibilities and none of them. The future built by your choices is forever in flux. Okay? To be quite honest, I don't give a fuck, Daiki shrugged. Even I don't know what I'll do in full in the end. And I prefer it that way. So if that's all you came to chatter about, you can toddle off. Unless you're here really to call me out for talking shit about Indra and threatening his soul. No, I have stepped back from the situation around my sons. I will not intervene in their situations. Hagoromo denied. It is you specifically that has drawn my eye. And currently, because I found no better time after you unveiled your knowledge on myself and my sons to the current incarnations. I have long sought peace and harmony for this world. I would hear your thoughts and how you would achieve such a thing. That was it. That was all he wanted to know. He'd really caught the Sage of Six Paths' attention with all he'd done, and that was what he wanted to know. Daiki couldn't help it, he chuckled. Absolutely nothing. Nothing? Hagoromo blinked slowly. You have never considered seeking peace for the people of this world? With your strength and your resolve, you may achieve what so many others, including myself, have failed to do. Of course I've given it thought before. Daiki scoffed. But I realized long ago that peace is a lie. How could peace be a lie? Hagoromo's brows furrowed and he floated a little closer. Can you not imagine it? People would never need to know fear. They would know no hunger. Feel no despair and sadness. It would be a world of joy and stagnation. Daiki cut him off, lips curling up in disgust. Such a world would be perfect. Except for the simple fact that humans are imperfect to begin with. And what is wrong with perfection? Hagoromo cocked his head, paying special attention now. Everything. Daiki spat, it revolted him. Without sadness, How could somebody appreciate being happy? If you've never felt hunger, how can you be satisfied with eating? There would be no desire to improve, because there was no need for it. There's a fucking special word for living in this completely imperfect world and chugging on anyway. He pointed straight between the floating god's eyes. It's called courage, you moron, he growled. In a world of perfect peace, there will never be a loser. That means there will be no winners. Without hatred, none will understand the true depths of love. In a world of perfect peace where you don't have to struggle for anything, you can never feel the satisfaction of accomplishment. A world of perfectly useless fucking bums. I'd rather burn this world down than ever let the disease that is peace and utopia dominate. In a world like that, there would be no place for the grind. In a world like that, men and women would happily share each other with anyone who desired them. In a world like that, there would have been no place for Daiki to ever seek out Isabu. In a world like that, he would never be himself. Just another useless, faceless bum in the crowd that would accomplish doing and do nothing with his life. Stuck stagnantly in place forever. It was such a disgusting thought he almost vomited. It made him sick to his very stomach. Peace was a dead end. Hagoromo was silent, for a very long moment. I see, he hummed, eyes closing thoughtfully. It is not purely selfishness, you have your own care for your people. I wouldn't have become Hokage if I didn't, Daiki scoffed. Maybe in the beginning, he had been more focused purely on his own survival. But that changed somewhere. He couldn't tell when the shift started. At the mission to Waterfall? When he became Isabu's Jinchuriki? He simply didn't know. And he didn't care. He just did. And you will stay true to this, regardless of what happens? Hagoromo asked. Of course I will, Daiki shot back. I won't let anyone force their bullshit peace on this world. Especially not Madara and Obito's dumbass plan. Even if your goddamn mother somehow comes back, I'll deal with her too. So you know of all that? I truly have to wonder how you came to possess the knowledge you do. Hagoromo chuckled, opening his eyes and looking up. For so long, when I peered beyond fabric of time and space, I bore witness to an enormous crimson-red moon glaring down upon the world, while a small crescent moon and sun opposed it. But months ago, it started to change. A small crackling thunder cloud appeared in the sky. Tiny, inconsequential. But, as the days became weeks, and weeks became months, it began to grow and grow. Until yesterday, the sky above the world was completely hidden in my vision. An enormous crackling storm raged across the skies, blotting the crimson moon, the crescent moon and the sun from view, shielding the world from them. He looked down into Daiki's eyes. I can no longer be certain of the future to that point, he said gravely. The world has entered a new path, and you are the forefront leading down it. And? Daiki asked blankly, running a hand through his hair. The god before him blinked, looking confused. I already knew that. Not specifically that vision crap. But that he'd long since meddled with how things were supposed to go, and it was his direct involvement that was changing the timeline. I've already resolved myself to dealing with Madara, Obito, the Jubi, or even your mother. Daiki shook his head. This whole meeting was pointless. So you said? Hagoromo nodded. But are you ready to deal with what comes after? With beings who make my mother look infantile in strength. What? Catching his gobsmacked expression, Hagoromo smirked. Did you think my mother sprouted from thin air? That she was the only one of her kind? What the hell are you talking about? Daiki asked, confused. Wasn't your mother just some princess that got all her powers from the chakra fruit? Princess? Yes, I suppose. And she did gain power from the chakra fruit. Hagoromo chuckled. But was she human in the first place is the question you should have asked. My mother is not a native of this world. Nor even of this universe. She belongs to the Otsutsuki clan, and she was in the lower ranks, closer to a servant. Excuse me? Daiki asked blankly. How do you think a Shinju comes to be? Or how a Jubi and chakra fruit is truly formed? Hagoromo asked instead of answering once more. I will tell you. The Otsutsuki clan roam the stars, planting the seeds of the trees on various planets. They soak in the life blood of the planet's residents, and its life force and become a shinju, a jubi. Then, they are fed a member of the Otsutsuki clan and empowered, to form the chakra fruit. That was to be my mother's role, until she backstabbed her superior and fed him to the jubi instead. There was a sequel! Daiki thought, horrified. The Otsutsuki are very special, and very hard to kill though, Hagoromo informed him, and the pit in Daiki's stomach just kept getting bigger. They can escape death through various ways, and such a thing happened with my mother's superior. Ishiki is his name. Hagoromo waved his hand and the water below them rippled, forming an image. It was of a pure white man, skin chalk white. Completely bald, except for an oddly single curved horn that circled his head like a bull. And in his eyes? 2 different eyes stared back at Daiki. One was a Byakugan, the other, a Dijitsu he'd never seen before. Of gold and black stripes completely all the way around. For 1,000 years he has toiled to recover his strength, and in a mere decade, perhaps 2 at most, he will begin to move again, Hagoromo revealed. And he is not the only one. I have clouded this world as best as I have been able, but soon Otsutsuki will realize something is amiss. And they will come to investigate. And they will covet this planet, ripe with chakra. He waved his hand again, and the water rippled, Ishiki's face being replaced by a vast empty wasteland, with a breadth of sky he'd never seen before. A personal dimension, Daiki realized. He'd recognize the signs anywhere, after all, he had too. In the middle of the wasteland, there was a truly enormous metal dome structure erected. Then, the image rippled and showed him what was inside it. A truly titanic being. Oddly spherical in body, and quite pudgy. But there was no mistaking that single massive glaring crimson-red Rinnegan eye with Sharingan Tomo. Nor the massive 10 tails bolted into the ground behind it. It was the Jubi. A Jubi. Far smaller than the one he already knew of, only of height with Isabu, and far less intimidating. Yet it was a Jubi nonetheless. What the fuck? Daiki sputtered. Ishiki has not been idle while regaining his strength, Hagoromo informed him. Small it may be compared to the Jubi you are thinking of, no doubt, of my mother. But it is a mere juvenile right now. If Ishiki's plan are allowed to come to fruition, this Jubi will surpass the other, and empower Ishiki far beyond your ken. Daiki stared at the image blankly, honestly completely unsure on what to feel. He thought he was finally almost there. Almost to the point where he could say for sure, he would be able to stop the crap with Madara and Kagaya from ever occurring in the first place. He'd already dealt with Kabuto and Orochimaru. And then this old geezer came and dropped this on him. Alien cultivators. Since when was this fucking Chinese Dragon Ball Z? Calm down, he told himself, taking a deep breath. He had time. At the very least, he knew they wouldn't make a move until beyond the time Kagaya was active again in the other timeline. And this Ishiki freak wouldn't be ready to move for at least a decade apparently. Yeah? He could deal with this. This was nothing. So what if there was a clan of alien cultivators or whatever? He already had plans to surpass Kagaya. That simply wouldn't be his end point. It never had been anyway. The grind was never ending. And he would get his own Jubi. Technically anyway once his plans for Isabu came to fruition. Daiki smirked. Is that all? He asked, crossing his arms. That's plenty of time for me to deal with these losers. Hagoromo chuckled. You are sure made of stern stuff, he said. Before, surprisingly, lifting his hands up, showing his palms, and the markings of the sun and moon upon them. Yes, you might be worth betting on. Daiki Yurei, tell me. How would you like to obtain my power? And become my successor? Chapter 82. For a long moment Daiki stared. Then he smiled. No. Hagoromo's jaw actually dropped, such was his shock at the refusal. You are denying it? Yup. Daiki nodded, his eyes still settled on the man's palms. The markings on his palms were absurd. Seals of the highest level. 2 halves of the same whole. The 6 Yang seal. The 6 Yin seal. When used in tandem, they formed the 6 Chibaku Tensei. A seal so potent, it made the plain Rinnegan version of the Chibaku Tensei and the 8 trigrams seal, the pinnacle of Bija's sealing techniques, look paltry. They were truly absurd. And if not for his forming of a truth-seeking ball through Izanagi, and learning just how the creation of all things in yin-yang style worked, he wouldn't be able to even comprehend a single percentage of these seals. Why? Hagoromo asked. You are not the type to deny power. You are as power-hungry as one can possibly be. Think carefully, this is power considered by many to be godlike. This is the same power the one known as Madara Uchiha has planned so long to achieve. Power enough to match and surpass my mother, right here and now. I know. Daiki nodded. His eyes drifted to the mass of void black spheres floating around the man as he looked at Daiki in shock. 9 of them, 10 in total counting the one formed into his Rikudo staff. Just them together, with a single swing could obliterate a planet. And that was just the very basics of the power available to the godlike man floating in the air before him. Not to be arrogant, but I am worshipped as a god. Hagoromo furrowed his brows. Inheriting my power, and becoming my successor. You would inherit such worship, you would be considered a god on earth. And what is a god compared to the Hokage? Daiki raised a brow challengingly, crossing his arms. Because, in the end, that was what it truly came down to. He was the Hokage. He had a duty to Konoha before anything else. As the Hokage, he would see to the prosperity of Konoha and its people above all else. Inheriting the mantle of the Sage of 6 Paths, and his power, would mean he'd accept the duty of being the Sage of 6 Paths as well. And that was counterintuitive. Because what Hagoromo desired was far more broad in scope than Konoha. If it was just him, he'd accept. But it wasn't just him. Konoha was far more important than mere godlike power. After all, he would obtain godlike power regardless in time. The Hokage? Hagoromo stared at him in disbelief. I realize, of course, you take a lot of pride in being the Hokage at your age. I have saw as such. And the Hokage that have come before you have been great and powerful men. But they do not come close to my strength, not even Hashirama Senju. Do you believe being the Hokage makes you more powerful than me? I confess I am truly baffled. It's not about power, or strength, or experience, or any of that crap. Daiki tilted his chin defiantly and smirked. If you and I fought right now, do you know what would happen? A one-sided contest of strength. Hagoromo replied easily, chuckling lightly. Yes, it's good you agree. Daiki nodded. I'd win. No, I'm fairly certain you would not. Hagoromo trailed off, looking oddly shocked and disturbed at Daiki's reply. Yes, he was sure such a thing would confuse the man. Or God. Either or, it did not matter. I would. Daiki repeated firmly, fully confident. The man did not say it. He did not need to. To be one's successor meant inheriting everything. Perhaps he was fine with Daiki's view of peace over his own in choosing him, but the caveat would always be that the power came with Hagoromo's influence to some degree. The man existed beyond life and death. He would not simply leave just because he gifted Daiki his power. He would not allow anyone, not even the Sage of 6 Paths, to hover over his shoulder and question what he did or did not do. The Hokage was just not the ultimate guardian of the Leaf Village, an undefeatable sentinel of might. The world's greatest warrior. The Hokage was also the world's greatest dictator. Where does such supreme confidence come from? Hagoromo stared at him in disbelief. With a single swing of my arm, I could rend this planet from existence. With a clap of my hands, I can create dimensions and breathe life into stars. I can see every move you make, minutes before you even make them. With a thought, no attack you make could harm me. With a blink, time itself will stop. Creation itself bows before me, and you believe you could defeat me if we did battle? Not a single doubt. Daiki shrugged and smirked, uncrossing his arms and pointing at the god before him. A mere god could never hope to defeat the Hokage. To even consider such a possibility would be to say he could not protect Konoha from any threat. But as Hokage, there was no threat he could not defeat. That was the existence he'd become ever since that fateful walk down those winding stairs into the Hokage training ground, and took the Sandame's words to heart, to soul. He truly didn't know the full scope of Hagoromo's power. But he did know, if it came down it. If he was willing to sacrifice his life and burn out like a star, like the Hokage before him, then he had the ability to defeat Six Paths Madara. And there were ways around even when his life burned out. He refused to believe he could not defeat the god standing before him. I see. This is not merely a differing in viewpoint. Hagoromo narrowed his eyes, staring deep into Daiki's eyes, searching. This is a difference in our realities. How dreadful. Is that the weight that comes with becoming Hokage? If so, I truly have underestimated it. What a sad place my world has become, for a child to gain such a burden upon his shoulders. How lamentable. He sighed. You are too bright, blinding even, I see that now. God shook his head mournfully. In the face of such shining resolve, I can only look away. He turned his head, and the inner world faded away, replaced once more by reality, finding himself once more standing in his office, staring at his door. Daiki stared at his door blankly for a few moments. It's not yours any more, old man, he said softly, shaking his head. He lifted his hand, palm towards the ceiling. This world is in the palm of my hand now. And the name of that world would one day be Konoha. Daiki, Isabu said, voice haltingly soft. I assume you saw? Daiki asked simply. I did, Isabu grimaced audibly. I can't believe father sought you out. And blocked me off. 1,000 years has passed since I last saw him. Yeah, that was pretty dickish of the old man. No, I understand why, Isabu replied sadly. Father has removed himself the tethers of this world. The fact you have such an impact in this world, Daiki, enough that he personally felt the need to speak with you, shows just how absurd you are. I can't believe he offered you his power. To be honest, either could Daiki. Did I make the wrong choice by knocking him back? He let only Isabu hear his insecurities and doubt that surfaced. Do you feel like you made the wrong choice? Isabu asked softly in return. I don't. I mean, it was so tempting, Daiki revealed to only him, so tempting. But I don't think I was wrong. Then you weren't wrong, Isabu assured him, and Daiki breathed a sigh of relief, shoulders slumping ever so slightly. Yeah, he made the right choice. He didn't need to be handed the power of the Sage of Six Paths. He'd gain such power regardless in the future. Still, it was very informative. That it was. To think there's a whole clan of beings like Kagaya out there, stronger even. And that one is already on this planet. Isabu said in wonder, and to think, the Jubi is not unique. I wonder, did we once look like that juvenile Jubi when we were one long ago? Maybe, or maybe they varied and looks just like the Bijou did. Or maybe it had multiple forms the more powerful it would become, like the Jubi he knew of. The least the old man could have done is told us where this Ishiki guy actually is. Daiki rolled his eyes. If Ishiki didn't make his move during the Fourth Great Ninja War in the other timeline, it meant he hadn't recovered enough strength to do so. Which meant right now, Daiki could quite possibly defeat him. A shame really, he could have took him out and taken that odd dijutsu of his for himself, then use it to go to where that juvenile Jubi was located and turn it into sustenance for Isabu. No, father would not do that, he will try to be as impartial as possible. It is blessing enough really that he told us of their existence in the first place, Isabu mused. Still, your logic is sound. We will just have to search for him. Assuming he is not located in that personal dimension at all times. Humph, he'll leave at some point. And when he does, I'll find him. Daiki smirked, and pulled the door open. I'm actually quite happy to know of the existence of these weirdo aliens. Of course you are, Isabu snorted. Anyone else would be horrified to learn there were beings out there far above even Kagaya Otsutsuki. But no, for you, this just means the path of your precious grind extends ever further. Not that just. But if they were harvesting chakra fruits and had been for thousands of years, it meant there was a level they sought to achieve. Which meant there was most likely beings on that level as well. And perhaps even beyond. The path of the grind truly never ended. The grind was eternal. And well, it wasn't like he didn't gain anything at all out of that little meeting with the Sage of Six Paths. After all, the old man had given him a good long look at the seals upon his palms. It would take some work, and some effort. It was a little bit beyond him currently. But recreating those seals was well within his realm of ability. And in time, he would add them straight to the Dimension Force seal upon his palms. 6 paths, Chibaku Tensei, huh? Isabu mused. You would not even gain access to that when you obtained the Rinnegan. Nor even with just 6 paths chakra. The technique used by father and his brother, that could even seal Kagaya herself and created the moon. Not a bad haul at all. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Which reminded him, he really needed to get around to learning the fire sealing method to add it to the Dimension Force seal upon his palms. And of course, tweaking it so it would work with all elements. Thoughts for later, Daiki decided. I've got a speech to go give, he said, reaching out and grabbing his office door handle, before pulling it open and stepping out into the hallway and making his way out. This will be hilarious. Isabu snorted. Well, he decided to go with an especially grand introduction in full to his people. He was sure they would be sufficiently impressed by how amazing he was. Or just flat out baffled at the absurdity that is your existence. Isabu chuckled in amusement. He made his way through the winding halls of the Hokage Tower, up towards the roof. And when he stepped out, all eyes fell on him. There was over half a dozen people already waiting for him. The Sandaime, Danzo, Koharu, Hamira. Those were expected. As there was Umbu commander, and Shikaku the Jonin commander. He gave them a single nod as he passed them by, not bothering to say a word to them. What he wasn't expecting were the intrepid duo of Jiraiya and Tsunade. Both of them off to the side, out of the way. Can't believe a brat like you is being made Hokage at your age. Tsunade shook her head, rolling her amused smirk on her lips. Yeah, whatever, hag. Daiki snorted. Careful, kid, you know she packs a punch, right? Jiraiya laughed. I mean, you looked like a real crazy strong big shot when you fought Orochimaru, but I don't think your face can take a punch from Tsunadeheim here. Jiraiya, I see you removed the ball gag. Daiki rolled his eyes, walking right past them as well. Maybe get rid of the crotch cage while you're at it. Jiraiya actually squawked in shock, almost falling off the railing he was sitting on. Sage above. Kid, the mouth on you! And that's an outdated term, by the way. Daiki paused and looked over his shoulder at him with a smirk. The Sage of Six Paths isn't who you should swear by, or pray to for that matter. It should be by the Hokage or Hokage above. Jiraiya shook his head as he rebalanced. Kid, your ego is insane. You realize the sage is a god, right? He replied. What makes you think the Hokage, or more specifically, you rank above him? Inevitability. Daiki's smirk widened as he replied simply, before continuing on. And what do you mean above? Gods live in their heavens, you're down here. Jiraiya called after him. Not for long, he thought. He noticed old man Hiruzen looking to him, and making towards the front of the roof. No doubt he was going to introduce him, give a speech and all that. But Daiki held his hand up, stopping him. Hiruzen raised a brow at it, before simply nodding in acceptance and stepping back. Then, Daiki made his way over to the front of the roof of the Hokage Tower, and looked down upon his people. Thousands of them had gathered in the square below. And a palpable thunderous cheer of excitement rippled through them, and shook the air as soon as he stepped into view above them. His eyes drifted amongst the people, picking out many a people he knew. He saw Hinata standing with her clan members, beside Hanabi, right in front of their father. He saw Tenten standing with her team, of Guy, Niji and Lee leaning on a crutch. He saw Team 10 with Asuma standing beside Kurenai who was with Shino and Kiba. He saw Gaara, his siblings and their sensei atop a building watching from a distance. He saw Naruto and Sasuke joining Sakura and Kakashi under the shade of a tree. He spread his arms wide and spoke a single word. Konoha! His voice, laced with chakra, boomed across the land, sweeping and echoing throughout the entire village. As a group, they fell silent under his voice, hushed for his words alone to be heard. An amazing name, isn't it? Daiki continued. A grand name, fitting of our village, the greatest village of all. The village hidden in the leaves. It describes not only our location, but the beauty of our land, the richness of our people. And each one of you is a beautiful, handsome, vibrant leaf atop the almighty tree that is Konoha. Once more they cheered as they should. He let them for a few moments, basking in the compliment and their own excitement, letting them hype themselves up. I did not expect this to happen, I will admit. I thought it would be years yet before I stood before you all like this. Years to grow my strength further, and work in the background to elevate our village to ever greater heights. He continued. Alas, Orochimaru the fool that he was, forgot his own roots and the greatness he was born into, and forced me to put him in the dirt where traitors like him belong. And so, here I stand. Earlier than I ever thought, but no less ready. For I am the Godame Hokage. He punctuated his words, volume rising by thrusting one palm into the air and unleashing a supercharged force palm jutsu that tore through the air with a crack that drowned thunder and obliterated the clouds in the sky above, allowing the pure unbridled light of the sun to beam down upon the village. Their cheers of excitement were stunned into complete silence by the flex of his power and strength. Such was the might of the Hokage, that the weather itself could be blown away with a wave of his hand. It wasn't long, however, before the palpable silence was broken by a single voice. Hokage-sama! A man cheered. And it was the trigger, and soon, he was joined by others. Howling shouts of awe and excitement. Hokage-sama! Godame-sama! Godame Hokage! 4 generations of Hokage have come and gone before me. Daiki boomed over the crowd. All men who lead this village to greatness. The Shodai, known as the strongest shinobi to ever exist. The god of shinobi. The Naidame Hokage. A man who has created more techniques than any who has come after him. A man who laid the true groundwork for this village to function. The government, the employment, the roads. All this and more, he was the one behind. It took over 20 S-rank shinobi to defeat him even in his old age. The Yondaime, young and gone too soon, but the one who crushed the cloud and the stone. Who felled the mighty and unstoppable Kyuubi. And of course, last, but certainly not least, is our dear Sandaime. A man whom has led this village over 5 decades and through 3 great ninja wars. To these legendary men, I give my awe and my respect. He turned as he finished, directly towards the Hokage monument and clasped one fist over his heart, before bowing his head, eyes closed. The square below erupted in a tidal wave of applause, a thunderclap of hands echoing against the walls of the Hokage Tower and throughout the streets. Roars of approval, whistles piercing the air and squeals and shouts that rang in his ears. He held that pose for a good 10 seconds, letting his people see him, before opening his eyes and raising his head, turning back to face them. Their era has come and gone, and now it is the era of the Godame Hokage, our era. He raised a fist into the air. And I pledge here and now, to you my people. My Konoha! This is the beginning of our ascent. The ascent of Konoha's greatness that will outshine all that has come before it, and all that will come after. He basked in the adulation that ripped through the air in response to his words. He wrote it out. Until one shout pierced the air that he caught amongst it all. I love you, Godame-sama. Thank you for protecting the village. A woman shouted. A shout he had been waiting for. Because it was one of his shadow clones transformed after all. He'd laid out quite a few in advance for this moment. And I love you. All of you! Daiki shouted. But do you know who does not? He raised his voice louder, over the crowd, quieting them a bit. Those jealous of our prosperity. Like the Hidden Cloud Village and the Hidden Stone Village. He pressed his agenda. Look at you all. The most handsome men in the entirety of the world. The most beautiful women. The richest and most prosperous village of all. The largest population. The most talented. The hardest working. And they hate you all for it. Want to take it from you. He pointed straight at the Hyuga clan. They covet our beautiful women and bloodlines the most. Just like how they coveted the Hyuga's incredible Byakugan and tried to kidnap their heiress as a child. He roared. And what did they do when caught? Acted smugly, threatened war. The Hyuga sacrificed for our sake. For your sake. Giving one of their own lives to placate those disgusting cloudies. Why did we back down, you ask? It was not weakness. We would have won. But we were at our weakest, the weakest we had ever been. Too many of your precious lives would be lost in crushing those insipid jealous pieces of trash. And the Sandaime in his wisdom chose you, over pride. And the Hyuga chose your lives. But I say no more. He waved his arm dramatically. For too long our loyal ninja have sacrificed, just to hold the line. Giving us time to rebuild our strength. Daiki pushed on. But thanks to that, here I stand now. The ultimate shinobi. The strongest shinobi. Yes, I do declare here and now that I am stronger than the Shodai Hokage. It would take all our enemies have to defeat me alone. But I am not alone, am I? For I have you. The greatest people to ever live beside me. The crowd roared again, a wave of sound so fierce it rattled the banners strung along the rooftops. Shinobi and civilians alike shouted his name, some pounding their fists into the air, others stamping their feet in thunderous rhythm. And with you. Daiki's voice cut through the cheers like a blade, the power of his voice echoing above all others, his massive smirk blinding. There is no force on this planet, no army, no jutsu, no god that can stand against us. Not even the sage himself. No more bending our knees to those who covet what is ours. No more swallowing insult and injury to spare the feelings of lesser vermin from cloud and stone. He swept his arm in a great arc in the air, his eyes burning like twin scarlet spheres of power as he channeled an excessive amount of chakra through them. From the smallest genin, to the eldest veteran, from the merchants who fuel our economy, to the children and academy students who will be our future dash. Daiki paused, and laughed loudly, running a hand through his hair. Well, you all get the point, right? A fresh chant rose, powerful and unified, sweeping through them and uniting them under his banner. Go Dame! Go Dame! Go Dame! The air itself seemed to quake under the collective cry, as if the will of fire had taken tangible form. Somewhere in the crowd, one of Daiki's disguised clones shouted, What about the Bijou? What do you have to say for that? You have a monster in you, just like the Kyuubi. A great many turned to him for his shout, and soon the clone was under heaps of abuse, angered shouts and raging at him. One specially caught his attention. Clearly that's different. The Hokage can't be controlled by a monster. Enough. Daiki silenced their abuse of his clone. He is not wrong. I do indeed have the Sanbai within me. Months ago, I came upon enemies of our village. They wished to control the Sanbai to do their bidding and use it to attack our village out of their jealousy. And so, I leapt into the fray. I sealed the Sanbai into myself, and then crushed them to protect our village. He looked down amongst the sea of faces. But I suppose it is time to reveal the truth. He closed his eyes almost solemnly, all an act of course. Before opening them once more, giving them a resolved stare. The Kyuubi that attacked our village 14 years ago. It was not a random occurrence, nor was it the will of the Kyuubi itself. For, unknown to you all, since the inception of Konoha, the Kyuubi has been part of our village. The collective gasp of the crowd rolled across the square like a roiling wave. Whispers flitted from mouth to mouth, disbelief and curiosity unbound. Daiki let the murmurs swirl, feeding the tension. It was all about playing it up to them. Setting the stage. Twisting the narrative, without truly telling a lie. He let them fester for a few moments, before speaking once more, his voice booming with chakra and silencing them all over again. Yes. The Kyuubi was ours. Bound to Konoha, serving as a weapon and shield for our people. It was sealed into a host of Jinchuriki, the same as me, just like how the Sanbai is sealed in me now, he revealed. The attack that scarred our home, that took so many lives, was not born of hatred from the Kyuubi itself, but of an enemy's cowardly plot to weaken us because of their insipid jealousy. A cacophony of gasps and shouts escaped the crowd at his revelation. Like vermin, they crept into our village. And when the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was at her weakest, they attacked and ripped the Kyuubi from her, and set it upon our beautiful village. He slammed his fist on the railing, making it rattle and ring audibly. They controlled the Kyuubi just like those fools I killed tried to control the Sanbai. And our people died from it, slaughtered in waves by one of our very own resources. He pointed straight down at them. There are 9 bijou in total. Once upon a time, they were free to roam as they please. But Hashirama Senju was so powerful the other villagers were terrified of him. Always coveting more strength and liable to start wars at the drop of a hat. So, in his wisdom, the Shodai captured the bijou and out of generosity and kindness, gifted them to the other villages to strengthen them and help them feel more secure. He shook his head. I do not wish to speak ill of my predecessor, but he was far too kind and generous. They have used those bijou to attack us ever since. It was using the power of the bijou that our Nidaime was overwhelmed in the end. It was through the bijou we lost our beloved Yandaime, using the gifts our village bestowed upon them. And so, I say they do not deserve them any longer. He spread his arms wide once more, grandly, making a spectacle, and called upon Isabu's chakra. Enormous shadows spread over the village, blanketing the sun itself from view, as all 3 of Isabu's tails manifested behind him, in full size. Each over 400 meters long, over 100 meters wide. The weight of each tail's existence enough to rend mountains and cause tsunamis with a single swing just from their sheer size and scale. And so once more I will make a declaration. The bijou belong to Konoha. And I will take them back from the unworthy who spat upon our generosity and seek to take all that is ours. The square erupted like a volcano. For a moment, the crowd was frozen in awe, their eyes drawn upward to the titanic, mountainous tails blotting out the sun. But only for a moment. And then the roar came. Primal and unrestrained. It was not applause now, but the kind of sound people made when they saw their god descend before them. Shinobi on the rooftops hauled Daiki's name, their headbands catching the dim light like glints of steel. Ninjas slammed their fists into railings, their voices joining the swelling ocean of sound. Merchants abandoned their stalls to throw themselves into the chanting mob. Mothers and fathers raised their children into the air above the crowd to look up at him and bask in his visage of pure awesome power. Take them back! Someone bellowed, voice cracking. A clone. Konoha's bijou! Another disguised screamed, followed by dozens more picking up the cry until it became a single deafening chant as his people were swept up into the frenzy and patriotic pride of what they believed was theirs. Now's the perfect time. Daiki smirked inwardly. He pointed his hand back up into the air. Sunpa, he thought. Once more, a massive shadow formed from nothing and cast even more of the village in darkness. As a titanic flying fortress appeared above the sky above the village, just low enough for them to see the top of it. And how he had changed it. Gleaming pure white stones circled the bottom working as a base. The front of it, emblazoned with a massive Konoha symbol. While the top where the castle had been, he'd gotten rid of it. Through multiple weeks and thousands of clones. Instead now a bright green land, like that of a high-tier resort bloomed, swimming pools and jacuzzis rippled gently under the sunlight. And in the center? A massive gleaming white metallic towering mansion reminiscent of the Hokage Tower itself, emblazoned with the flame of Konoha and the will of fire itself, stood proudly. They were stunned into disbelief, and he took that moment to leap. He crossed hundreds of feet in less time than it took to blink, standing upon the edge of the fortress, massive tails curled around it, and crossed his arms. He smirked down upon his village. Look upon the things I create. And know, you too will gain the power and wealth like this. For we are great and mighty, and now that our time of holding back is gone, so too is the chances of the other paltry villages living like you. He declared. Have no fear, this is my home. And where I will watch down upon the village itself. And you shall know every day you look at the sky and see this home of mine, that as long as you are part of Konoha, then you will never need to know fear. Because there is no greater guardian in this world than Daiki Uriai the Godame Hokage. And his home, his castle, rose to the heavens. He looked down at Jiraiya, at his gaping stupefied face, and faster than any but an S-rank ninja could see, he gave him the middle finger. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn in Naruto World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Reborn in Highschool DxD as a Lucifuge, and What If a Venerated Soul Reincarnated in Danmachi World will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if creating the strongest Strawhat crew by reading manga? What if reincarnated in Bleach as Toshiro Hitsugaya? What if hosting Q&A in One Piece World? Please vote in the poll and let me know which 2 stories you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.